Hi, and welcome for joining us at Happy Ending Sanctuary. We're here with our friend Gemini, and today we're going to be talking about abuse, healing through body work and different modalities. Our friend Tracy Allred is here.
Hello.
And she's a wealth of information and has all sorts of wonderful information for us and how to heal. Just a little bit about Gemini. Gemini was attacked by a man with a knife, and he was cut on his chest, right there, all the way open, and also on his legs, which you can't see right now. And so he has some real serious abuse issues. He's not very trusting, and so we are hoping to make a difference in his life. So I'm going to hand it over to Tracy.
All right. So just a little introduction about myself. I rescue horses myself, and most of them have also been abused or in not great situations. So that's actually how I started to get into healing and using healing to help the horses through their abuse issues. So a lot of times, just like humans, horses carry that with them. Even if they learn to trust their humans, they still carry that with them. They carry the memory of it in their body. They carry the memory of it in their brain. And sometimes it just comes back as something out of the blue, or it looks like it's out of the blue, like a quick movement or something, and the horse overreacts. Usually that's where it's coming from. It's coming from the memory of that. Just like us, they don't forget things, just like elephants. So what I do normally, I do a bunch of different modalities, but to me, craniosacral, energy work, Reiki, and osteopathy are some of my favorites, especially for abused horses, because also when you're abused or you carry abusive memories with you, or trauma or anything like that, any bad experience, you have a tendency to carry it with you physically. You tense up, and then when you get to be Gemini's age, it turns into a chronic issue. Horses especially, because they get tied, they pull back, they have all kinds of experiences that can damage their vertebrae, their occipital atlas joint, which is right up here. So a lot of times, the cranium houses the brain, of course. So the cranium has little fissures in it. All the separate bones have little fissures. And when a horse does this or runs and lands on its front legs, any kind of accident to the head, it can damage those fissures. Well, inside of here, this is the occiput in the front and the wing of the atlas in the back. This is exactly where the brain stem is. So when a horse does that, just like us, it can damage its brain stem, which has a lot to do with trauma as well, because when they're traumatized, they do this, and they get jammed everywhere. So that's where, and see how he's a little bit nervous about my hand right there. I know this about him. Cece told me about this, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The cerebral spinal fluid also goes through there, all the way down their spine to their sacrum, actually further. Their tail is actually part of their spine. So if that is jammed, then they don't have proper, healthy CSF, cerebral spinal fluid, nourishing the rest of their body. It's damaged. It gets clogged. It doesn't pass through. So in craniosacral, we try to heal that. How does that help with trauma? It helps with trauma because it relaxes the horse. It allows their brainstem to release, and then proper hormones, proper reaction, proper reactivity gets through. So that helps them physically. As far as the hands go, a lot of times when you put your hands up or anything else that scares a horse and makes them nervous, people have a tendency to stop doing that and they move away. Am I right? Am I right, Gemini? He's really good on camera. Yeah. Okay, so the reason I didn't is because I don't want that tension in my body. Because if I were to put my hand up and he got nervous and then I went, oh, don't do that, what happens to my body?
Tense up.
I turn into having a whole bunch of tension, and then he feels that because horses they're really nothing more than energy. So if I can just stand there and keep it there calmly and not move, which kind of takes a little bit of practice, grounding, energy, then he can learn that we can relax when that happens, right? So actually, the first thing that I would do with him after we've made friends, which is what I'm doing right now. We've actually made friends before, but I would just try and get him. I'm putting my right hand on the other side of his neck, so he got a little bit nervous, but I didn't stop. I just try to keep my energy cool. And then I'm gonna go right up to that brainstem and see if we can do a little bit of lateral decompression. Lateral meaning sideways. So that's on the atlas right there. I'm gonna do cranial as well. Sorry, I was just feeling stuff there. With craniosacral work, there is no pressure, which is one of the reasons that I love it the most, because it's not invasive in any kind of way. Any kind of way. It's not, you will never, there's no chance of hurting a horse using craniosacral, none. It's mostly an invitation to the horse to release whatever, keep an eye on his eyes, whatever trauma, whatever tension, and a nice chew there. So he's starting to feel the decompression now. Notice he's also lowering his head, which is a pretty darn good sign of relaxation.
And so is the licking and chewing.
Yes, and so is the licking and chewing. Okay, so I'm gonna actually go to the cranial. So I'm gonna rub him right there and I'm gonna explain something. The lateral decompression moves this way. When I go to do a cranial decompression, I'm actually asking the cranium to step away, or the occiput to step away from the atlas to open that up, okay? So if we can do it, all I'm doing is placing about 5 grams of pressure, and if he tells me that that's too much, then I will back off, because it's not really me doing anything. So my left hand is inviting the occiput to move away from the atlas, and he can feel that. That's why he's like, what's going on right there? Because that's his brainstem. That's where all the nerves exit. That's where blood flow, cerebral spinal fluid, everything goes through there. He will tell me when to release that. But you can always, you can always do this off body, because it's not, like I said, craniosacral is not a physical modality. It's also the first modality that I always use. Craniosacral's always first, because you're not going to be able to heal anything else in the body until you get cerebral spinal fluid flowing. So nothing else will work if you have to open up the horse through craniosacral. So also, if I raise my arm there, notice he's not freaking out about me moving or anything too. Granted, he does have a halter on, and horses know when they have halters on. They know they're trapped. But I'm trying not to give him that energy that he's trapped. Okay, so we're gonna wait here until I feel, all right. So also, the more chronic an issue a horse has, big deep sigh there. longer it takes. So there are little ways that you can help a horse release. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to stick my thumb in his mouth and actually cause him to release his TMJ. Because when you lock your jaw, you're full of tension. So what that does is it just releases his TMJ and allows him to actually release all of that tension. And you can do that over and over. Some horses actually have to be taught how to do that. One of my horses had to be taught how to do that. He did not lick and chew for 2 years. 2 years. All right, so there we have that. And I'm also going to talk about the front of his face, which is actually, I'm kind of going way out of my normal routine. If I were to do a craniosacral session on a horse that we weren't, filming or anything, I would always check their face first, because that's where you're going to see asymmetries. No. So when we looked at him earlier and now, you can see his left eye is a bit different than his right eye. It's really hard to tell on colored horses because it's an optical illusion sometimes. So you can also feel all of this, but all of these bones, and I'm not going to go through them by name, the temporalis muscle right here, temporals, it's temporalis bone actually, those are really even, which is really, really nice. That's really good to see. That means he's chewing pretty well, okay? As we get down here, you can see some disparities in asymmetry. So all I have to do, again, is just invite him to release some of those. This works on humans too, guys. Craniosacral works on humans. My husband was a non-believer until I did it on him, and then he believed. So if you can see, try and compare those eyes, and you can see how his left eye is a bit smaller. All right, so we're gonna go there, and then we're gonna go back here. And I'm also gonna go, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of TMJ work. Everything starts here, and then you get to the rest of the body. But when you talk about trauma or abuse or bad memories, whatever, I mean, this poor horse, I can't imagine what he went through. I mean, I can't imagine what he went through when that happened to him. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So the fact that he's here with Cece does my heart good. And he's such a sweetheart. Aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so see, like, if you had a horse that wasn't so chronic, he would be releasing a whole lot more. This guy just needs a little invitation. And I think my fingers now taste like fly spray, so. It's all right, bud. It's all right. Yeah, see how he locked that? He locked that again. So, oh yeah, gotta release that. So, TMJ, I would also do temporalis a little bit just because of that eye looking smaller, the left eye looking smaller than the right eye. But I also wanted to talk about pituitary gland and pineal gland because, especially when you're talking about rescue horses, if they have bad experiences, just like us, our hormones have a tendency to, it's just like when you see on the news there's a fire near your barn, what happens? Cortisone kicks up, right? And we get all tense and we go into fight or flight mode just like horses do. So that's what controls all of those hormones in there. So a lot of times they can be way out of whack. So with craniosacral, you can actually go in, there's so many bones in the cranium, I think it's 36, so I can't really go through all of the bones. That's why I'm kind of concentrating on these two, the pituitary and the pineal. Everything in our body has a motion to it, and the pineal gland has a clockwise motion to it. So if you use energy healing and craniosacral at the same time, and this is what we talked about earlier, how do you get to bones that you can't really feel because it's inside the cranium. The horse's brain is back here, and then there's all kinds of fancy stuff going on inside there. But the pineal gland has a clockwise movement, so you have to think about it, and you have to really zone in, place all of your energy, your grounding, your intention onto that pineal gland. And the horse always tells you when you got it. That's Gemini saying you got it. This is the horse that I had to stick my thumb in his mouth to make him lick and chew a minute ago. So you can feel, if your intention is right, where it can be stuck and where you can move it. Now, am I, like making a fist and grabbing the pineal gland and saying, move? No, I'm not. That's the beauty of energy healing and craniosacral. But you have to believe it. And that's one of the reasons I love horses so much, is because they will always tell you what's right and what they feel, because all they are is energy. So I'm just moving through the glitches that I feel in the clockwork motion of the pineal gland. And Gemini says, enough, lady, you got it twice. You got it twice. So, one more thing, and then we can talk about what we see, or if you guys have any questions. How do you feel about your ears, Gemini? How do you feel about those ears? This is one of my favorite releases. A lot of horses have uneven temporalis, and that's from, just like us, if you chew on one side of your mouth, the muscles on that side of your mouth are going to be stronger. Same thing with horses. So think about how muscle moves bone. Bone doesn't move muscle. Muscle always moves bone. So if you have muscle in front of the fissures in the cranium, in the skull, you need those muscles to be in symmetry for the skull to work right. So just by looking at a horse's eyes, nostrils, nasal bones, lips, you can tell where the asymmetries are. And that's what a craniosacral therapist is looking for. Asymmetries. And notice I'm only working on the head. This goes all the way back. But that's about a 2-hour video. No, Cece says no. All right, so when I feel here, and this is no pressure. This is an invitation. It's by invitation only, Gemini. It feels squishy. And you can tell actually where it feels stuck again. So I'm just inviting him to release that tissue. And then it kind of feels like, almost like a rubber band. There we go. Yeah, and this one I'm gonna help him out on with, I'm actually gonna do the roof of the mouth this time. There's a little acupressure point right here as well. That's governing vessel right there. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions? What do you want me to talk about?
How does all of this help him in his thought processes and his emotions?
How does it help him process his emotions? Well, first of all of that stuckness and the hormones. You cannot properly process emotions if your hormones are on fire or they're shooting off too much of one hormone versus the other. So all of that pineal gland work that I did, that was helping all of those hormones. However, I will say, it's not like a one-day fix, so, but it also has a lot to do with the energy. And like what I said at the beginning, when I held my hand up and he got a little iffy, I didn't go, oh, sorry, right? if I would have done that, I probably would have scared him more, which then sets those hormones off in another weird place, you know? So our energy kind of has to be in tune with the horse's energy. You are such a good boy. Yes, you are. Nancy, do you have any questions?
How did you get into doing this work with horses?
Okay, my first rescue in California, I lived in England for 9 years and I had a rescue thoroughbred over there off the track. My first rescue in California was diagnosed. He was on his way to the slaughterhouse when I got him. Nobody could get near him or touch him. And then I got him in 1999. In 2013, he was diagnosed with a neurologic problem. So when you hear neurologic, you think there's nothing you can do about that. He's neurologic. So you either have the horse put down or you gracefully retire him, which is what I tried to do. And he's a very alpha horse, very strong-minded, very confident. So I struggled with that while I was struggling with my own health issues. And instead of, it took me a while, but after a while I thought, why the miracles happen every day, right? Miracles happen every day in all kinds of weird ways. So why can't I find a way to help this horse? And I had already done my Reiki certification, so I found everything in my life has kind of been impulsive and kind of fallen in my lap, and I just kind of listened to the signs. Mac was my second neurologic horse. My thoroughbred in England was also neurologic. So I took that as a sign that this time I needed to get my act together and maybe do something about it. So that's how, all because of him, all because of her Siberian steps. She sent him to me. When I had to euthanize her, I was done with horses. And I was a British Horse Society instructor. My life was horses. And I never wanted to have another horse again because she broke my heart. And 6 weeks after arriving in California, I had this 4-year-old Arabian that nobody could touch or get near, and he completely changed my life and is still completely changing my life. He just turned 25, and I've had him since 1999. He has a lot of problems, but you just do the best you can. Some things can't be fixed. They just can't. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're
for
very
today.
welcome. Very welcome.
And we hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
And we're so grateful that you
Thanks,
joined
guys.
us today. And please keep watching. We're going to have some more videos. If you need to get in touch with me or the sanctuary, our number is 805-448-7138 or happyendingssanctuary@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Take good
Thank
care.
you.